You might be stuck in a break-even phase or just some kind of flat stretch at the moment, and it's making you doubt the whole thing about trading, everything about trading, whether you can actually succeed, whether it's worth it. You're going to have all these questions and doubts pop up in your mind. And it's not the evidence that you're getting from your performance, from what's actually happening, isn't the evidence that you think it is. You're going to read it as failure every time it shows up. Every time you're on a flat stretch, every time you're on a break even phase, you might have just blown a funded, right? Whatever it is, it's never failure, right? It's just variance in a way. And, sometimes people will come to me and they say, it feels like I'm not, like nothing's happening. But that's exactly what it looks like when it's actually working, when things are actually working. It's going to be boring. It's going to look like you're not making any progress because your profit and loss, your percentage gain, whatever you track, is in a way it's a lagging indicator. When we talk about lagging indicators in trading, we do the same for PnL and progress, right? It does not align. So you might be, let's say, a month or two into, I guess, doing the actual work. You've stopped taking stupid trades. You've been sitting on your hands a lot better. Instead of entering straight away, you've held back, whatever it is, logical decisions that you've actually implemented some kind of circuit breaker in there to bring yourself back to that logical part of your brain. But your account looks exactly the same, or maybe it's worse than when you started doing all these extra things. And so that's where the doubt actually comes from. And now you might be half watching YouTube videos on different approaches, or you're scrolling on Instagram, you're seeing this trader hit $30,000 a day, and oh, what does he trade? How does he trade? Or whatever it is. You kind of get dragged and pulled away from the only thing that's ever moved the needle because you're measuring it with the number that will move the last, which is your P&L and your percentage gain. That's the last thing to move, right? It's very hard to track. Like it is hard to track progress without looking at your P&L and saying, well, it's not moved, so I'm not making progress. You could argue, yes, but at the same time, progress is building these good habits. You're just dealing with variance at this time, right? So there's four main points in this video. Firstly, why your P&L is the worst feedback signal that you could possibly use for your behavior change, and why it lies to you for months before you start to actually see that progress in that P&L. And what's the next one? There we go. I just drift off and forget to go to the next slide as per usual. So number two, what the brain does when the reward stops, why progress is just invisible by design, and one of the traps that will reset your clock every single time. And trust me, it happened to me so many fucking times. You would be astonished. Uh, so there's always an order to this, right? So your excuse me, your behavior will change first, and then your variance will change, which means your drawdowns will get shallower and your bad days will stop being catastrophic. Okay, so you won't hit the max loss limit on this day. You might only be down, you know, 1-2%. Nothing crazy. It's not a full tilt catastrophic day anymore. So then the money will move last, and this order never changes. So it means you can trade clean for a full month instead of break even, and nothing has gone wrong, but nothing has gone right. So then you get into this mindset that, oh, this isn't working, so on and so on. I'll probably make another video about the actually to actually know there's a leak in your strategy and data and math behind it, but I won't get into it today. Um, your account is the last place that progress actually shows up, which makes which makes it the worst possible place you could actually look for progress. So you already understand this everywhere else, right? You'd never make a real time decision off a lag indicator on a chart. You'd get destroyed, as I said before. But you do it for yourself every week when you look at your account or you just got an email that you've breached something, whatever it is. You'll look at that balance and say, well, I just changed my behaviors. I did all these things. And you might have done all of those things correctly. And you're like, well, it didn't mean anything. And the part where it makes it worse is that, for example, let's say you actually cut the leak in your system. And let's say it was 15 to 20% of your overall trades. That doesn't show up as green, profit. 3 weeks later, it shows up as drawdown. That never happened. Does that make sense? I keep forgetting. I always fucking do this. Anyway, that's not the point. Just listen to what I'm trying to say. That's the main point. Um, so all of these things, when we talk about progress and seeing progress on your PnL, whatever, you might not have made gains, but you've definitely stopped the losses. So if you look at it from this perspective and say, well, I didn't completely blow up this day. I didn't have a catastrophic day that killed my whole account, killed everything. Right? You might only be down 1 or 2% on the week or the month, whatever it is. And then you say to yourself, well, I didn't make any progress. No, you did. If we kind of reframe this idea of progress being profit, we can look at it as losses as well. Oh, I didn't lose as much this month. You've made progress. But people don't see that as progress. They still see the loss as they're failing, as they're losing. Like, mind you, you could have a whole year, 6 to 8 months of unprofitable trades, and then that 4 months will make up for it. But people don't look at it in a long term perspective. They want the payouts now. They want this now. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say. But you're grading slow progress on a fast clock. And, the clock is kind of telling you to stop right at the point where the progress will actually start paying. And then you might switch strategies, or you think, oh, this isn't working. This is bullshit. Then your mind gets scattered and you kind of go all over the place. So now think about what you actually took away from yourself when you started behaving. you took away re-impulsive entries, um, over risking, the action, the noise, the feeling of doing something about it. Every one of those paid you in seconds. And that's the entire reason that that behavior existed in the first place. It was reliable, fast, and it worked every single time at the thing that it was actually for, which was not, it wasn't for making money. And what did you put in place of that? Nothing. You put nothing in place of that. So you took the dopamine away and gave your brain nothing to replace it with. So of course it's going to go back to the charts, and you've kind of got this addiction almost. I made a video about that before, about chart addiction, and actually how it's actually almost like a gambling addiction. It's all dopamine. Now, our primal brain does not run a deficit, and it does not wait patiently for us to finish some kind of discipline arc. If you don't choose the replacement, it'll pick one or the other. And it always picks the one that it knows that already works. Now, that's where you relapse. Okay, it might be 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in, and your account is at break even or you're down a little bit. There's no visible reward anywhere in your life from any of this. And then that one impulsive trade delivers that hit. It even takes 5 seconds to deliver that hit. Now, the behavior you starved for 3 weeks, trying to be good on the charts, it just walks back in. And it's not really necessarily a sign of weakness on your end. It's the only thing that actually pays your brain, and it's the only thing that your brain knows will pay it. So it's a weird thing, and it just kind of means that every time you frame this as like your willpower has failed or your discipline has failed, you kind of misdiagnose it. It's more of a supply problem than anything else. Now, progress is made of things that didn't happen. Okay. Everything that goes right in this work is almost negative space. Whether that's the trade that you didn't take, the session that you didn't trade when you said you wouldn't, um, the extra half an hour you stayed on the charts trying to get your way back into a trade, or, whatever it is, all of that is the invisible kind of progress that you don't see, that you don't really take note of. And, the trade that you don't take doesn't send you a notification. It doesn't, you don't log it, you don't register it. Like, none of these things happen. So your brain weighs what happened far heavier than what didn't happen. And it always will. So, excuse me, with every like piece of evidence you can easily, I guess, reach, will sit on the failure side of this ledger. So you'll remember the one rule that you broke maybe on Tuesday to a T, very much in detail, but you won't remember the 10, 15 times that you didn't break that set rule, because nothing happened, and nothing doesn't really register as memorable in your brain. So this is why, fuck's sake, this is why logging things matters more here than anywhere else in trading almost. Yes, you need a, an amazing strategy, you need an edge, all of econometrics behind a profitable edge. However, this is like the only space where you can turn negative space into a number, and it's a fact that you can hold. Your memory will never keep this fact because your memory won't record these moments because nothing happened. So it's not going to remember it. And that's why people kind of get stuck in this loop because they don't log any of these things in their journal. They don't, there's they just log the trade. They don't log what they did that was good themselves. They kind of focus on the negative, and then their brain forgets that actually this week we've done really well. We've actually stuck to our execution maybe 80% of the time. And that might be 5 to 10% more than usual. But it's that one rule that you broke that becomes memorable because it might have taken a bigger hit on your account with that trade. So on and so forth. It's just a massive cycle. And if you keep going down this path of not logging things, you'll end up asking yourself why, or why. Maybe was my psychology bad? Is it this? Is it that? There's so many different things that your brain can spiral into. So, and it doesn't really come from being impatient. It just means that it's your brain is unsafe. Your brain can handle the loss, but it can't handle not knowing. And you might have weeks of being just flat. You're not seeing any progress, whatever it is. You might have no feedback whatsoever, and it doesn't feel boring. It feels like a threat. And that's the actual state of your nervous system that it's sitting in because uncertainty with no resolution is the thing that it tolerates the worst. So your brain will try and go and get an answer. Any answer. A trade will give you information. A new confluence or strategy will give you kind of hope. And both of these things are relief. And relief is what your brain is hunting for this whole time. And that's what happens when people say when they're trying to trade something different or when they're I'm just going to try something different today. It's not necessarily a strategic decision. It's your nervous system trying to resolve a state that it actually can't sit in for that long. And then that's when the trap closes. So you kind of get into this cycle of we have like, you have no visible progress. So then we go and change something that we don't need to change. And then that sample size will reset to zero. And then there's nothing to see. And then this just kind of goes back. Okay, you kind of fall into this cycle of every time you change something, you reset the clock. And then you use that empty clock as proof that it's not working. So, you know, a sample of zero can never show you progress. So there's never any visible progress. So you kind of run this loop for years, months, years, and you try and I guess you could try and sit there and cope and say, "Oh, I'm adapting, I'm being adaptable." But the reason you've never seen this work isn't that it doesn't work; it's that you've never once let a sample get big enough to tell you anything. Because sitting in that not knowing phase feels worse than actually starting again. So you're going to feel better starting again than sitting in that phase where you're not knowing if you're making any progress or not. So write this one down as well because once you catch yourself in this loop, you can actually break it. Okay. Sounds really simple, but it's obviously not. What do you actually do about these things? what do we what can we do now? Build a process scoreboard. I talk about majority of these things a lot of the time anyway, but just have one page where you fill it in weekly and there's no money attached to it. What goes on it is the count of flag trades, sessions that you've ended when you said you would, entries taken at the correct size, plan adherence. Write those counts down so your brain gets something visible. And this is the only honest thing available to you in month one. So you kind of get an actual visual and an actual number behind. Well, actually, 85% of the time I'm doing the right thing. So you can visibly see that progress. Otherwise, you're not going to see it, and then you're going to fall back into that trap, that loop. Now, number two, fix your review window. So daily PnL, as we all know, is pretty much noise. Count weekly and judge the trend monthly. And don't decide anything off one single session. It has to be, at least a week. At least a week. At the very minimum week. Number three, choose the replacement deliberately. So remove a reliable source of reward and something needs to fill that gap, whether you pick it or not. So you need to pick something. Whatever it is, you need it to pay out reliably, and it shouldn't cost you any money. So leave that slot empty and the charts will take it back. So you need to fill it with something, and it could be absolutely anything. Absolutely anything. Anything to take you away from the chart. And number four, set a minimum sample before you're allowed an actual opinion. So choose a number of sessions that kind of fit your frequency, whatever it is. Until you hit it, you are not permitted to conclude anything about whether this is working. So write that number down before you start, because you will not be objective about it at week 2 or 3. So, and number 5, obviously, just change one variable at a time. Every simultaneous change makes the result just unreadable. So it's simple. One change, full sample, and then judge it. So yeah, that's the end of the video. I do have a few tools and things coming soon that I'm releasing. Just a few PDFs that might help people. And yeah, I'm going to get more into the edge building side of things and how to actually build profitable edges, and not just, and it won't be chart based, it'll all be math based, what data to actually track, what you need to do before you go live, all these types of things. And if you do need extra help, there's a link to my website and my program in the link below. The price will keep going up with each purchase, so it's there if you really need it. Obviously, everyone that's in it now is doing pretty well, so yeah, that's the end of it. So